The illusion of beauty is not in the face, but in the fog that blinds the soul. Humanity has always been seduced by the shimmer of surfaces, the polish of skin, the glamour of the scene. We paint our faces and call it confidence. We decorate our bodies and call it self-worth. We reshape what God formed and call it improvement. Yet beneath this gloss, something sacred decays. The quiet truth of who we are without adornment. The world has built temples to beauty, where mirrors are the altars and attention is the sacrifice. The modern heart bows to the reflection more than to reality itself. The mirror tells us lies so sweet that we learn to believe them. It whispers that worth can be purchased, that love can be painted, that identity can be sculpted by hands that never knew the soul behind the eyes. In every scroll, every filtered smile, we see not faces, but masks, and we applaud them as if they were human. We have traded authenticity for applause, presence for posing, peace for presentation. And the tragedy is not that the world deceives us, but that we want to be deceived. We crave the illusion because truth feels too heavy, too plain, too unmarketable. The fog of false beauty comforts us with its softness until we realize it has suffocated our spirit. Once, beauty was something divine, a reflection of goodness, purity, and harmony. The flower was beautiful because it was alive, not because it tried to be a rose when it was a daisy. The stars were beautiful because they shone in their given place, not because they competed with one another. But man, restless in his heart, decided that beauty must be controlled, edited, refined until it could be sold. We have turned beauty into a business, and in doing so, we have exiled the soul from the body. What once drew our eyes upward now drags them inward, into the black hole of vanity. The soul, meant to find joy in being, now aches to be seen. The face, meant to express spirit, now performs like a mask worn for the approval of strangers. Every smile is rehearsed, every imperfection erased, every human mark considered a flaw to be corrected. Yet perfection without sincerity is the ugliest form of deceit. When everything becomes polished, nothing feels real. The saddest part of this deception is how it alters love. True love once looked at a person and saw light within them, a soul that burned brighter than the body that housed it. Now, love has become conditional upon angles, filters, and illusions. People fall not in love with persons, but with presentations. We love what glows, not what grows. And when the glow fades, as all glows do, the heart feels cheated, when in truth, it was the one deceiving itself. We are teaching a generation that love is something you can earn through aesthetics, that worth comes through visibility, that peace comes from fitting into a mold rather than being carved by truth. What began as expression has become imprisonment. The mirror has become both the judge and the jailer. And yet, if we look closer, beyond the noise, beyond the vanity, we can still find the whisper of something eternal. Beauty that does not need to shout, that does not demand approval, that simply is. It exists in the eyes of kindness, in the hands that serve, in the quiet of a soul content with its own depth. This beauty does not fade with time, does not crack under scrutiny, does not require praise to exist. It is the beauty that remains when the makeup melts, when the youth fades, when the applause dies away. It is the beauty of truth, the kind that is painful to see at first, because it exposes all the illusions we've built around ourselves. But once seen, it cannot be forgotten. It does not glitter, it glows. It does not perform, it lives. The traps of beauty are subtle, for they speak in the language of desire. They tell you that you will finally be loved if you become like them. They promise acceptance but deliver addiction. The more you chase the reflection, the further you drift from reality. And like all traps, they begin with pleasure and end with emptiness. The woman who once sought admiration now cannot live without it. The man who sculpted himself for praise becomes terrified of imperfection. The world watches, claps, and moves on. But the soul remains chained, forever adjusting itself to the expectations of others. This is not beauty. It is bondage disguised as brilliance. We often imagine vanity as arrogance, but most vanity is born of fear. Fear of not being enough, fear of fading into invisibility, fear of being ordinary. But what is ordinary? The tree that grows quietly by the stream is ordinary, yet it sustains life. The ocean that moves in rhythm to the moon is ordinary, yet it humbles the mightiest of men. The human face, lined by time and laughter, is ordinary, yet it tells a story that no sculpture could ever imitate. To despise the ordinary is to reject the miracle that breathes within it. The trap of modern beauty is that it convinces us that only the extraordinary is worthy of love, while the truth whispers that it is the ordinary made sacred that reveals the divine. There is a danger in the constant pursuit of self-enhancement, for it breeds discontent that no mirror can soothe. The more we decorate the surface, the emptier we feel within. The more we depend on appearance to define us, the less we remember the essence of our being. The moment we attach our worth to what others see, we become prisoners of their gaze. And that gaze is fickle. It changes with trends, with seasons, with moods. What is adored today will be mocked tomorrow. The applause of the crowd is a wind that shifts. To chase it is to wander endlessly. True peace lies not in being adored, but in being anchored. The world says, be beautiful, and you will be happy. But the soul knows, be whole, and you will be free. The pursuit of artificial beauty demands sacrifice, time, money, authenticity, peace. It asks you to lose yourself in order to gain admiration. But admiration is a shallow currency. It cannot purchase love. It cannot heal loneliness. It cannot replace the quiet joy of self-acceptance. The one who learns to see beauty in truth, rather than truth in beauty, begins to awaken from the fog. They begin to see the divine fingerprint on every face, even their own. They understand that beauty is not a prize, but a presence. It is not something to achieve, but something to reveal by living honestly. To avoid these traps is not to reject beauty itself, but to redeem it, to return it to its rightful place as a servant of truth, not its master. Beauty should remind us of goodness, not distract us from it. It should awaken gratitude, not envy. It should draw our gaze beyond ourselves, not trap us within. The eyes that see truly will find beauty in the unpolished, the unfinished, the real. For the soul that has learned to love truth will find that beauty follows quietly behind it, no longer a fog that blinds, but a light that guides. There is a strange tragedy woven into the fabric of human desire. The more we polish the outside, the duller the inside seems to become. The pursuit of outward perfection begins innocently enough, with the simple wish to look one's best, to present oneself with grace. Yet, like a vine that grows unchecked, it slowly winds around the soul, tightening its hold until what was once a harmless preference becomes a consuming need. The world applauds this pursuit. It rewards symmetry, shine, and spectacle. It gives crowns to the flawless and invisibility to the genuine. But the irony is cruel. The moment one starts living for perfection, one begins dying to authenticity. The pursuit of beauty, when it ceases to honor truth, becomes the slow decay of the spirit. The eyes, which were made to see wonder in creation, now see only flaws in themselves. The heart, which was meant to love freely, now calculates its worth through comparison. The mind, instead of seeking understanding, becomes obsessed with improvement. And in this endless loop of refinement, something essential is lost. The ability to be real. To be imperfect yet whole, to be simple yet radiant. To be human without apology. We have reached an age where people edit not just their photos, but their personalities, where honesty feels too raw and imperfection feels like failure. We stand before the mirror, not to reflect, but to negotiate, asking our reflection to be someone the world might finally approve of. Perfection, in its worldly form, is a performance. It is the art of looking whole while hiding the cracks. It is the desperate attempt to erase vulnerability, to silence the voice that whispers, "You are enough." The more one strives to perfect the surface, the more one must conceal the fractures beneath. And so, people become walking illusions, radiant shells around trembling hearts. They smile for cameras, speak in curated tones, and live in houses of glass, terrified of being seen for who they truly are. The pursuit of perfection promises power, but delivers exhaustion. It tells you that once you achieve it, peace will follow. Yet every step closer to perfection reveals another flaw, another imperfection demanding correction. The goalpost moves endlessly, until all that remains is fatigue masked as glamour. True perfection does not exist in symmetry, but in sincerity. It lives not in the flawless, but in the faithful. A face that carries lines of laughter, a heart that bears the scars of forgiveness, a soul that trembles yet stands. These are not imperfections to be corrected, but evidence of a life that has truly lived. But the modern heart has forgotten this wisdom. It chases smoothness instead of substance, applause instead of peace, and so it grows weary under the weight of its own pretense. Outward perfection demands a mask, and every mask requires constant maintenance. You must polish it daily, defend it fiercely, and fear its cracking. Yet all masks eventually fracture under the pressure of truth. And when they do, the soul that has hidden too long beneath them barely remembers how to breathe in the open air. The corruption of inward truth begins quietly. It starts when a person values appearance over integrity, charm over character, image over essence. Slowly, the compass of the soul begins to turn toward the world's applause rather than the whisper of conscience. It's no longer, "Who am I becoming?" but "How am I perceived?" No longer, "Is it right?" but "Does it look right?" This subtle shift is the birthplace of spiritual erosion. The voice of truth grows faint beneath the noise of approval. And what was once a vibrant, living heart becomes a reflection of other people's desires. The person who once sought to express themselves now exists merely to impress. Outward perfection is a mirage, a shimmer on the surface that hides emptiness beneath. One can polish a cup endlessly, but if it holds poison, the shine means nothing. So it is with the soul that neglects truth for the sake of image. There are countless people today who appear successful, radiant, flawless. Yet inside, they are hollowed out by self-loathing, fear, and the constant anxiety of maintaining appearances. This is the silent cost of beauty without truth. The soul that bends itself to please others loses its natural shape, and soon it no longer fits within itself. To chase perfection is to run from the very thing that could make us whole. Our humanity. Humanity, in its truest sense, is not about flawlessness but about redemption. It is about the ability to fall and rise, to break and mend, to fail and still love. But perfectionism denies this rhythm. It demands control, not growth, display, not depth. It suffocates the tender voice within that whispers, "You are still beautiful, even when broken." It teaches us to despise the parts of ourselves that make us real. And thus, we grow into strangers to our own souls. The heart that pursues perfection without truth forgets how to love itself. It learns only how to compare, to compete, to conceal. It forgets that the purpose of beauty is not admiration but reflection. Reflection of what is divine, what is sincere, what is alive. When truth departs, beauty becomes vanity. When humility departs, elegance becomes arrogance. And so the world grows loud with noise and empty of meaning. People spend fortunes to appear youthful, while their spirits age in loneliness. They fill their homes with mirrors, but find no peace in their gaze. They gain followers but lose themselves. Yet it need not be so. The soul can return to truth, but it must be willing to unlearn the lies it has been fed. It must dare to see beauty not as perfection achieved, but as honesty revealed. To stand before the mirror and say, "I am unfinished, but I am alive." To accept the scars not as shame but as symbols of survival. To see the lines on one's face not as flaws but as stories. For every crease, every imperfection, every uneven edge speaks of laughter, of struggle, of moments that shaped the soul. That is the beauty that endures, the kind that no camera can capture because it glows from within. The pursuit of outward perfection blinds us to the quiet miracle of imperfection. It tells us to hide what makes us human, when in truth, it is our humanity that makes us radiant. A flower that grows wild in the cracks of stone does not apologize for its irregularity. It is beautiful precisely because it grows where it should not. So too with us. Our beauty is not in the absence of flaws but in the presence of courage, of honesty, of tenderness in a hardened world. When the heart learns to love truth more than perfection, it begins to shine in a way no light can imitate. it becomes whole again, not flawless but free.